I said, I'm really excited to share some insights with all of you so that you can discover your inner superwoman. If you are more aware of your body and your cycle as a woman, you will take better decisions. I'm really glad to guide you through the different phases of your cycle. But before we start, I just want to do a quick intro on myself. I'm Morgane. My name is Morgane, and I'm a co-founder of Goods. It's an online health coaching business. And besides this, I am certified nutrition and well-being coach. The most important thing, the reason why I'm doing this kinds of webinars is because I have been struggling with my cycle, with my hormones for years. So long story short, I have been taking anticonceptions since I was 15 because I had a lot of skin issues. And when I was 29, I decided to stop to take any anticonceptions. And when I stopped, I waited for 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months. And then I went to the doctor because I was still waiting for my period. And the doctor told me, well, but your female hormones are at their lowest level. So I will give you a medication to get your period back on track. And then finally, after 8 months, I got my period. But my cycle was still irregular. So then a few months later, I was pregnant, which was not planned, but more than welcome. And I'm really glad that happened. But it was not planned because I didn't have any regular cycle. And then after my pregnancy, I decided with my doctor to insert UID, a spiral, like some of you know, with hormones. So I thought I would be good for the coming 5 years. But after 1 year and a half, I had again a lot of skin issues. I was 32 at the time and I looked like I was 16. So I went back to the doctor and the doctor told me, well, to fix your skin issues, you need to take the pill on top of your UID. And I was thinking like, okay, let's do this. I tried that for 2 months, but I felt really bad about it. I had mood swings again. I didn't feel comfortable with the fact that I was taking the pill and the UID. So I decided to take everything, and the UID, I decided to take it out of me and I stopped taking the pill because I couldn't believe that the pill was the only solution to my problems. So I started looking for natural ways to get my natural cycle back. And I was really glad that I took the time to discover a new way to discover my body. And it's also in that period that I realized that I didn't know a lot about my cycle, about my body as a woman. And also I realized that a lot of women don't know anything about that topic. It has been a long drive to get where I am today. But I'm really happy that I found some ways to feel better every day of the month, or feel great every day of the month. So during my research, I discovered that 58% of women feel ashamed of bleeding every month. To be honest, I was shocked that there was such a high number of guilt and shame. As women, we need to be proud that we bleed every month, because the fact that we are bleeding every month shows us that we have a healthy system. And I think we learned as young girl to be ashamed when you are bleeding, to not telling your friends that you have having your periods, or taking any sanitary products that you how do you say, that you hide them when you go to the bathroom or to the restroom. So there is a really taboo around that topic, and I think it's important to have open and honest conversations so that women feel empowered to be who they are today. And also, women are not small men, it's a fact. We are different than men. That doesn't mean that we can't do the same, but we need to take into account that we need to do the things differently. And why we are not the same as men is because we have our hormonal cycle. Also, a lot of research on diets or exercises are based on men. I will talk later about that topic. Also, tonight is an introduction of the different phases of your cycle and what you can add as foods or exercise during these phases. It's just 30 minutes tonight. I'm gonna organize more sessions to go more into depth on each topic because I could talk hours about that topic, but tonight it's just an introduction, and we will go more into depth in other sessions. So, like I said, we are different from men. We have our hormonal cycle, but men also have a hormonal cycle. But the duration of their cycle is 24 hours, and our cycle is 28 days, depending on the person. It depends on your cycle. It can vary between 25 and 40 days. If it's more than 40 days, then you have an irregular cycle, and then your system is not that good as it should be. But the man has 24-hour cycle. It's not that complex as a woman, so they are maybe more lucky, or I don't know how we can interpret that. But I will show you later on the graph how the cycle of a man is. But if we look at the female cycle, you have 4 phases in your menstrual cycle, and you also have fluctuations from your female hormones. So your 2 most important female hormones are estrogen and progesterone, and they fluctuate during your cycle. So if you have a look at that graph, we have 4 phases. So we start with the menstrual phase. It's the first day of your periods, when you bleed. Then after, depending, after 3-5 days, you have the follicular phase. And then in the middle of your cycle, you have your ovulation. And then before your periods, you have the premenstrual phase. And it's also in that phase that we might have a lot of symptoms coming up. For the man, it's less complex. Like I told you, it's 24 hours, like you see on the graph. So the graph above is younger men, and the graph at the bottom is older men. So they most important hormone is testosterone, and it starts to rise around 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, and then it dips again in the afternoon. And if you have a closer look at that graph, then you can also compare it with our current, how our society is modeled today around that 24-hour cycle, like the working hours from 8 to 5. It's based on the male cycle. So I think it's also time to take into account how we function as women, and to incorporate that in our daily lives. I also, a few weeks ago, I started with a survey, and I had a lot of responses. So maybe one of you that are present in the webinar maybe also participated in that survey. And one of the questions was if you take any contraceptives. So almost 52% of you are taking contraceptives, such as the pill or the UID or the vaginal ring, and then less than half of the women don't take anything. If you are the one that is taking any contraceptives, just know that you give your body on a daily basis artificial hormones, and that you block your natural hormonal patterns. The recommendations that I will give, or the tips and tricks that I will give tonight, are really useful for women who have a natural cycle, so that women that don't take any contraceptives. But that doesn't mean that if you take any contraceptives that it's not useful for you, because as women it's important to live in to live around the cycle. And also, if in the near future you want to stop taking any contraceptives, then it's always good to follow these recommendations to get a good natural cycle. And you can also watch it helps you to live in a more balanced way, so that your mind and emotions are in line with your body. Um, and then also, we saw in the survey that a lot of us have a lot of symptoms during the menstrual cycle. Uh, Only less than 8% don't have any issues. So you're not alone in this. A lot of women have mood swings, cramps, food cravings, fatigue, skin issues, and so on. Only a minority of the women don't have any problems with their menstrual cycle. I just wanted to share this with you. Also, nobody tells us that the foods that we are consuming, the way how we eat, what we eat, also have an impact on how we feel and perform, and also that some lifestyle changes can reduce your symptoms. That doesn't mean that they will go away, but just to adapt your food and exercise during the different phases of your cycle can have a positive impact on your symptoms. So let's start to go more into depth in the different phases of the menstrual cycle. I see there is a question. I'm just going to have a look. Yes, so the question is, you have a UID with hormones and you have a UID without hormones, and the copper UID. Indeed, with the one without hormones, you have more a kind of natural cycle. So then these recommendations are also good, useful for you, but also for people that are taking any contraceptives. These recommendations are useful. So it's useful for every woman, but know that if you take any contraceptives with artificial hormones, it just blocks your natural hormonal pattern. For me, it has freezed actually my hormones for years, and I really feel a difference how I feel today and how I felt in the past. And I tried everything. I tried the pill, I tried the UID without hormones, with hormones, the vaginal ring. So I did it all, and I was really a different person when I compared how I feel today. So the menstrual cycle, it has 4 phases. So the menstrual phase, the follicular phase, the ovulation phase, and the premenstrual phase. And these 4 phases, gonna see, okay, I thought someone was saying something. Normally I muted everybody. So these 4 phases, you can also compare it with the 4 seasons. So the menstrual phase you can compare with the winter, the follicular phase with spring, ovulation phase with summer, and the premenstrual phase with autumn. So during your cycle, you experience these 4 seasons, and also like the seasons, you can adjust your food. For example, in the winter, you will reach out more to soups and stews. In the spring, you will eat more lighter food and salads. In the summer, you will go for raw veggies. And in autumn, you will go for fiber-rich foods. And that's also important that you take this into account when you want to eat following your cycle. So the menstrual phase, it's the days when you have your periods. It's also the start of your menstrual cycle. And what happens with your hormones? When we looked at the graph a few slides ago, we see that the female hormones such as estrogen and progesterone are at their lowest level. Your energy will also be low in the beginning of your period, but later on you will have more energy. So around exercise, you can incorporate yoga, like soft kind of yoga or Pilates or walking. Also, if you feel that you don't have energy, it's not a good idea to force yourself to go to that boot camp or to go to that HIIT session, because your body really needs that rest so that you can recover more easily. Oh, and yeah, sorry. And then for the food, during that phase, it's important to stock up on magnesium, iron, and zinc-rich foods, because you are losing blood in that phase of your cycle. And these micronutrients, like we call them, magnesium, iron, and zinc, you can find them back in foods. And which kind of foods? Well, iron, I think it's the most popular one. You can find it in meat, but for people who are vegetarian or vegan, you can also find iron in spinach, for example. But know that your body will absorb iron more easily as it comes from animal products. If you take it from plant-based products such as spinach, then it's I advise to combine it with something that is rich in vitamin C, so that the absorption will go better. So, for example, you can squeeze lemon juice on your spinach or green leafy vegetables and so on. Um, Also, zinc is an important one, and important to know is that we cannot make any zinc, so you need to have it from your food or eventually some supplements. And then magnesium is also an important one that you can find in different foods such as mushrooms, spinach, chickpeas, and so on. Also, magnesium reduce menstrual cramps and stabilize insulin levels. It's also good in that phase that you choose low glycemic index veggies and fruits such as berries, apples, and so on. Also, what I recommend here is that you not only eat these kinds of foods, but in the beginning you can try to add these kinds of foods in your diet. But in general, it's important to have a balanced diet and that you vary a lot. But if you eat in in the different phases of your cycle, you have a really varied diet because you switch a lot of ingredients. Then the follicular phase, so it's springtime then. That's a week after your periods, and also you will see that your female hormone as estrogen is on the rise. So that means that the feel-good hormones are on their way, and maybe you will recognize yourself in that kind of feeling, in that phase, and you also may feel a rise in energy. So it's a great time of the month to do some cardio workouts or dance classes or spinning classes. And also in that phase, your muscles will recover more easily after exercise. And then for the food, you will see that your metabolism will be slower. So it means that your appetite you will have decrease in your appetite. So in that phase, it's good to eat food that is lighter, fresh and light foods, a lot of veggies. You can add a lot of veggies in your diet to feel more energized. Also, foods that contains fetal estrogen are really helpful to help for your estrogen rise. And also probiotic foods such as kefir or kombucha is really useful because they maintain your gut microbiome, and that's also an important one. Then the third phase, the ovulation phase, so that's in the mid-cycle, and it's the duration of it's 3-4 days, and estrogen is at its highest point, so it's just before ovulation. Your other female hormone, progesterone, is still very low, but will also rise after your ovulation occurs. And also your estrogen will drop after ovulation. That's at the time of your cycle that you are full of energy. You will also feel really positive and happy. So it's also a great time to go outside. Now it's a bit difficult with the lockdown situation, but it's a great time to go to network events, to connect with other people. So also when you are aware of that, you can also schedule your important events during your different phases of your cycle. And then you can do all kinds of exercises such as HIITs, boot camps, CrossFit, bar yoga, kickboxing. But of course, if you feel that you don't have enough energy, don't force yourself. It's always important to listen to your body. And also in that period, in that phase, it will be easy for you to have a workout on daily basis because you will be full of energy. And then for the food, because during ovulation phase, your body temperature will go up. So then it's good to focus on veggies and fruits that have a cooling effect. So eat raw veggies, salads, and so on. Also, your liver will need attention to process the rise of estrogen. And you can also find typical kinds of foods that helps to maintain a healthy liver, such as garlic, spinach, tomatoes. Also, if you are looking for carbs, it's good during the follicular phase and the ovulation phase to choose for light kind of grains such as quinoa. And nuts is always a good option too. And then the last phase is the premenstrual phase. It starts about 10 to 14 days before your period begins. And there progesterone is at its highest point. You will see that during the first days of that phase, you will still have a lot of energy. So you can still do a lot of heavy workout. But then after 5 days, you will feel that your energy, that you will maybe have some energy depths, but then you can maybe focus on less intensity training, more flexibility exercises such as yoga, stretching, or Pilates. And then also in that phase, you will experience more food cravings or sugar cravings and the mood swings. But by adapting your nutrition, you can decrease your symptoms. You will also need more calories during that phase because your metabolism will speed up during that phase. So choose for nutrient-dense foods, also complex carbs to prevent any energy dips. Don't reach out to the processed snacks or ice cream or whatever, but try to add in every meal during breakfast, lunch, and your dinner these complex carbs so that you have so that you feel full and satisfied after every meal, and that maybe the urge to snack during the day will be less. Okay, and then these complex carbs you can find in sweet potatoes or wild rice, and also focus on vitamin B rich foods because vitamin B will help you against food cravings. You can find vitamin B in meat and in fish. Also, healthy fats will help you to maintain your mood swings. And if you cannot find it into foods, then maybe think about a good supplement that is rich in a high quality omega-3, for example. But actually most of all you can find in your food. And then to have a little recap of the different phases. So you have the menstrual, the follicular, the ovulation, and the premenstrual phase. I'm just going to go fast on this slide because, like I told you, I could talk for hours on that topic. But in other sessions, I will go more into depth on your energy levels. But know that your energy will be at its best during follicular and ovulation phase. Your mood, I think everyone can, most of you can recognize yourself, that little monster that is popping up just some days before your period begins, and know that you are at your best during ovulation phase, that you are the most social version of yourself at that moment. Also, immunity plays an important role during your cycle. In the beginning, the first half of your cycle, your immunity will be better than in the second half of your cycle. That the reason for that is because before ovulation, your body is preparing to a pregnancy that might come, depending if there's any ovulation or not. Also, your sleep has an impact. You will see that you will have a better sleep in the beginning of your cycle, and just at the end, the days before your periods, you will have less sleep. Also here, you can add magnesium-rich foods because magnesium will also help to activate your sleep hormone, melatonin, or you can take some supplements and magnesium in that period of your cycle. And then for the food, like in the winter, you will go for soup and stew, so warm foods. During spring, you will have light and fresh food. During summer, raw food, and during autumn, fiber-rich food. So the building blocks for your hormones, it's important to think about the healthy fats that you can get from fatty fish, nuts, seeds to maintain to decrease your mood swings. Magnesium-rich foods for the cramps and better sleep. Vitamin B for the food cravings. And also it's important to reduce your stress levels, because your stress hormone cortisol also has a huge impact on your hormones. And also I wanted to mention that these days there's a lot about the diets such as keto or intermittent fasting, but know that a lot of research that has been done on these diets has been done on men. And what works for a man is not always working for women. Certainly not for intermittent fasting. I know it's a kind of hype now, but know that when you wake up in the morning, your cortisol levels are pretty high. That's also the reason why we wake up. We also need that. But when you decide not to eat in the morning, then your body will go in starvation modus, and your cortisol levels will increase. And the fact that your body needs to make more cortisol, they will steal your other hormones such as progesterone to make more cortisol, and your stress levels will rise. So know that as women, it's not a really good idea to do intermittent fasting. And also work out smarter, not harder, like we saw in the different phases. It's important to listen to your body. Don't force yourself to that HIIT session or boot camp, or if you are too tired, don't go for a 10-kilometer run, but try other sports that will help your body to recover, and so on. So these were a few recommendations during the different phases of your cycle. If you have questions, just ask in the chat, and then I can answer them, or you can also stay in the Zoom call, and then I'm glad to answer them live. I also made a Facebook group, a private Facebook group, where I share more insights, and it's also a safe environment for women to discuss all kinds of topics around their cycle. So you can always join that Facebook group. I will also share this presentation with you after the webinar, and you will also be able to see the recording of this webinar in the Facebook group, and you can also follow me on Instagram, where I also share a lot of personal things about my cycle. So I'm really happy you all stayed in the webinar. And if you have questions, maybe not now or later, just reach out. I'm really happy to help. And if you have friends that might be interested in that topic, please share it with them that I'm giving every Thursday this kind of webinars, and within a month I will give other webinars that go more into depth on the topics we discussed here tonight. Okay, so thank you very much, and yeah, hope to see you soon. Okay, thank you.